Well, good afternoon and welcome. Let me first start by welcoming Governor Cuomo to Rochester. Thank you. My name is Kathy Calhoun. I am the Chief of Staff and Acting Commissioner for the New York State Department of Transportation. You will hear from this morning Mayor Lovely Warren. You will then hear from Congresswoman Louise Slaughter. You will hear from our Assembly Majority Leader, Joe Morelli, and then you will hear from our Governor, Andrew Cuomo. Before I begin, I have a few acknowledgments. I'd like to welcome, we have two Rochester City Council members here today, Michael Patterson and Adam McFadden. We have two members of the Monroe County Legislature, Vince Felder and Ernest Flagler Mitchell. Welcome. We have Amtrak Senior Director, Marie Corrado. Welcome, Marie. And from Labella Associates, the CEO, Sergio Esteban, and President Bob Healy. Welcome. Rochester Building Trades Council President Dave Young is here. Rochester and Genesee Valley Area Labor Federation, Dan Maloney is also with us. And the Director of Policy for Governor Andrew Cuomo, John Majori. Yeah. Our ESD President and CEO, Howard Zemsky. And of course, one of Rochester's famous, wonderful former Lieutenant Governor Bob Duffy. Thank you for joining us today. So for more than 30 years, this city has had a temporary train station that simply wasn't worthy of Monroe County, and it wasn't prepared to serve a 21st century economy. Today, that is changing under the leadership of Governor Andrew Cuomo. The governor recognizes that strong and effective infrastructure is essential to the economic development and to improving the quality of life in our community. Under his leadership, New York is making transformative infrastructure investments all across the state. For example, here in Rochester, DOT is making major upgrades to the interchange where 490, 390, and Lyle Avenue all come together in the town of Gates, which will significantly improve traffic flow for the 200,000 daily users of that interchange. We've modernized the interchanges of 390 at Route 15 and 15A in the town of Brighton, including new ramps and bridges that improve access to the expressway. And it's not just roads and bridges. Governor Cuomo thinks holistically about a region, and that's why he's also investing in the Greater Rochester International Airport, which is being transformed into a state-of-the-art transportation center that will keep moving the Finger Lakes forward. But from the beginning, the governor recognized the need for a new train station, and he's been dedicated to making that a reality. Under this governor's leadership, the state has contributed $23.4 million to replace this 36-year-old temporary Amtrak station. With this new modern facility that promotes economic development and honors Rochester's railroad and history and its architect. Thanks to the innovative use of design-build to move this project forward, we've progressed at an astonishing speed. The contract was awarded in October of 2014, and by the end of that same month, on October 28th, we had already broken ground. In less than 3 years, this site has been completely transformed. This is a world-class station. It has great passenger amenities, including a comfortable waiting area and a place to buy coffee, a newspaper, or locally made food and beverages from a Taste of New York kiosk. 2 new passenger tracks and a new high-level passenger platform will reduce the train congestion and make it easier to board and disembark from the train. Until now, all trains had to share the same track, forcing them to stop and wait for another train that was ahead of them at the station. That contributed to the passenger service delays and for everyone traveling across the state. The new track means 2 passenger trains traveling in opposite directions will be able to pull into the station without waiting, and freight trains will be able to bypass the station without having to stop. So there's a lot to celebrate about this new station. We've built a beautiful rail station that will continue to welcome travelers to the city and the region for generations to come. Now, if you'll please join me in welcoming a key champion for this project, your mayor, Mayor Warren.
Thank you, Commissioner. Let's give her another big round of applause. It is indeed my pleasure to welcome the governor back to our city, because no governor has been a better friend, ally, and advocate for the city of Rochester than Governor Andrew Cuomo. Let's give him another round of applause. Since taking office, the governor has invested heavily in improving the lives of Rochester residents, helping us rebuild needed infrastructure and moving our community forward. And with the governor's support, we are seeing more businesses choose our great city and grow and develop their workforce right here, creating jobs and allowing vibrant economy to reach its full potential. And we are taking another step forward to improve this city for today and for generations to come. The new Rochester train station is another testament to the transformation underway here in the great Flower City. And I want to make a note. Many of our older residents have told us for decades what a shame it was to tear down the historic train station. And I remember coming here when I was in college from New York City riding a train, and I can tell you this facility, Governor, looks fantastic. Thank you so very much. A facility that will undoubtedly help us in our efforts to create more jobs and bringing safer and more vibrant neighborhoods and better educational opportunities for our citizens. I am so thankful to Governor Cuomo, but I'm also thankful to the great Congresswoman from Rochester, our Congresswoman Louise Slaughter. Let's bring her up. So it is my privilege and my honor to bring to the podium the great Congresswoman from Rochester, Congresswoman Louise Slaughter.
Hi, hey. Boy, is this a good day. Look at you. Thank you. We finally got it, didn't we? Well, I want to talk a little bit about the history of railroad, and while the governor's here, I want to see if I can persuade him to help me with a little issue here. Governor, pay attention here now. There's going to be a quiz. All right. Today continues the legacy of passenger rail travel in our region that started more than 150 years ago by Dean Richmond, the president of the New York Central Railroad, and a resident of Batavia. I have no idea why he lived in Batavia and ran the New York Central Railroad where he had to commute every week, but he did. But he understood that economic opportunity would dramatically increase if our region had a strong rail network. It's still true today as high-tech industries like optics and photonics grow here. Whenever I tell the story about President Richmond, I like to remind people that the speeds that we travel today on the railroad track are 55 miles an hour. To put that into context, and why I'm so proud of President Richmond, was in 1983, the Empire State Express, a steam engine, raced to set the world land vehicle record on its run from Syracuse to Buffalo, pulling several passenger cars. With crowds watching, engineer Charles Hogan steered the Empire State Express to reach 112.5 miles an hour between Batavia and Buffalo, and today we can go all of 55 miles an hour. So see, Governor, we had high-speed rail here, and we're ready for it again, right? And the governor's been most gracious. We spoke about this in Washington, and we have a little thing we have to do first, and he has agreed to help me with that. So let's look forward to that. It is such high time that we had that, such high time. It's truly astonishing to think that they had higher speed rail then than we have today. I think the track may be the same. Is it? Are we sure? Now, I've been fighting very hard to reverse that by advocating since the first minute I got to Congress for high-speed rail. When I was first elected, I was on the Transportation Committee. Pat Moynihan was senator. He wanted maglev, if you recall, the median on the thruway. I wasn't going to go that far. I just put money into the budget to study high-speed rail on the Empire Corridor, which was never drawn down and never spent. So we didn't get to study there. But I'd also like to mention that our region awarded both the federal AIM Photonics Institute and the Remade Institute. Let me tell you, there are 14 of those institutes started by President Obama in the United States, and we were able to get 2 of them. Think how remarkable that is. I've written early on to the presidents of all the major airlines telling them that with this growth that we will experience here, we have to have the kind of transportation that will get the persons where they need to go and their goods where they need to go better than we can do today, so we can capitalize and rebuild our economy here. But this is truly an important day for our region. The journey to today's ribbon cutting started 7 years ago this month, right shortly after President Obama was elected. And if you recall, he put $8 billion into his budget for high-speed rail. So after we applied, obviously, for it at once and let them know we needed it through the American Recovery and Reinvestment Act. This includes we've done a lot with the money that we got. We got of the $8 billion, we were able to get money from both Wisconsin and Florida as soon as the governors, for political reasons, decided they didn't want it. So our money has already been at work. We have fixed the awful bottleneck. It's a connectivity, a single rail there that really slowed down rail service and for over 100 years had been a bottleneck, which again shows you one of the most vital pieces of our transportation system in this country has been totally neglected. If you recall that after 9/11, all planes were down, and many of us were struggling with ways to get back and forth between our homes in Washington. Most people had to drive, or a lot of people did. Some were able to take good railroad service. We were not. And I look forward to that so very much, to be able to make that trip. But we have worked to secure that. And I also, while I was at it, secured a Tiger grant for the recently opened Niagara Falls train station, which is also very beautiful. And Mayor Dicer has given me my own set of keys. So we'll be sure to see that one when you're over around Buffalo. Have you seen it, Howard? Yeah. It's great. Now, Tiger grants are competitive awards. They are not legislation. We compete, we fight for them against every city and every place in the United States. But when Rochester comes together, Rochester wins, as evidenced by our winning 2 Tiger grants in 1 year, which is, I think, most unusual. As we got the Tiger grant to build this station, we also got the Tiger grant to fill in the inner loop. And what I have been reading in the press is that already the filling in of the inner loop has created great economic interest. So with the economic development, I think that we will see from this railroad station being here, bringing back this neighborhood, it is going to make a world of difference beyond just transportation. And I'm all excited, as I said, about that. But we've done several more rounds of funding for Rochester. $1.5 million for the preliminary planning, design of the station, $1.4 million after the infrastructure funding was rejected, and funding was only part of it. We talked with all the stakeholders here. It was the first time I think we'd ever been much aware of what the problem, the magnitude of a lot of the problem. We talked to senior citizens. We talked to persons who were hearing impaired, students at NTID. The students at NTID told us that they would have to sit here in the former waiting room, and when crowds of people got up to go somewhere, they just got up to go with them, having absolutely no idea if that was their train or not. That is going to be no more. We met with all the colleges, I said. Well, about 2 years ago, 146,000 people used this railroad station, and a lot of them were the college students. So I'm proud that we built this station through a successful project labor agreement. And I see my friends of labor here in the front row. Thank you for that. Also, I'll tell you honestly, when I first saw it ready to open, my first thought was how solid it looked, how well built it is, and I'm sure all of you will realize that. It's not just that we came out of a trailer, it's that we really see something here that's pretty special. I also want to thank the Bergman Associates and LaBella Associates, Pike Construction, for the extraordinary work of coming in on time here and doing it, and it is absolutely magnificent. And right here on this site, over 100 years ago, the Rochester Central Station opened its doors, 1914. Designed by Rochester's very own Claude Bragdon, an internationally known architect. It was a paragon of design, center of so much history. It was this location right here where our community bid farewell to local soldiers as they departed to war overseas, and served as a gathering place for the suffragettes organizing for the right to vote. It was also where our community welcomed dignitaries, including President Woodrow Wilson. We had a station that was worthy of those gatherings. Unfortunately, it was demolished in 1965 in the great haste for urban renewal. They left the passengers without the great welcome to our community that we had then and that we deserve. Replaced by a temporary structure never intended to serve passengers for the long term. Not ADA compliant. What that meant was that persons in wheelchairs had to be wrestled up onto the train with people taking a wheelchair and picking it up. Mothers with strollers had an awful time just getting onto the train. How the government let this go so long, I'm really perplexed to try to tell you. It was poorly constructed, dimly lit, and certainly, as I said, not ADA compliant. And we've stuck with it for decades. So now it's changed, and a new era for us begins today. The station recognizes our past. We have the same looping windows that Bragdon had. And let me tell you, one of the best things is we are going to be gifted by a gentleman in Rochester with a clock that stood in this station with the title Master Clock. Apparently, Grand Central Station ran all their clocks from New York City Station, but they had one in this station for all the clocks in this station to make sure they were on time. It's absolutely beautiful, about 5 feet tall, half sawn oak. It's a self-winding pendulum clock. It's not ready yet. Amtrak is doing a great job on getting it displayed, but we will be able to enjoy that for a very long time to come. But it's also compliant with the ADA. That's terribly important to me. We worked very hard to get the ADA passed. And it certainly is wonderful for our Rochester deaf and hearing impaired community. It's about time, frankly. Let me just end with this. We've been pretty patient, haven't we? But you don't build a railroad station overnight. You don't build photonics overnight. You don't build remade overnight. The important thing is that we have them going, to keep them going, and to see the great effect that all of that's going to have on this community for generations to come. This is not the end of the project for the railroad either. I've saved my thanks here to Governor Cuomo. Governor Cuomo, I appreciate very much your partnership throughout this project. And I also want to thank former Transportation Secretary Ray LaHood, who served as Transportation Secretary and was a dear friend and made sure that we got the Tiger Grant for the station and for the inner loop. And his former associate, Deputy Commissioner John Porcari, was an Irondequoit kid, and he was wonderful to work with as well. So we thank everybody for all the attention they've paid to this project, and I'm so grateful to all of you, and especially these three people right here. That's my family. Thank you all. Thanks so much. And now I want to introduce one of the best friends I've ever had. We are so pleased in this community that one of our own is the majority leader of the United States, or the New York State Assembly. He's been as sharp as a tack since he was born. He takes that great acumen to Albany and works every day on behalf of not just us, but everybody in this state. He's a good friend, and he is certainly a loyal son of Monroe County. Joe Morelli.
Thank you so much to my dear friend, longtime friend Louise Slaughter. And I don't often tell this story, but I remember sitting in Louise's office when she worked for an extraordinary lieutenant governor by the name of Mario Cuomo. You all remember him. And I talked to Louise about running for the Monroe County Legislature, and she couldn't have been more kind, more encouraging, and has been a faithful and devoted friend for so many years. I want to thank Louise not only for that, but for the extraordinary work she did to bring this to fruition. Louise Slaughter. And as I was sitting listening to folks speak before me, I was looking at the insignia here, E pluribus unum, out of many one, and it reminded me of it's a stark reminder that all of us come together at different levels of government. The city government played an important role, certainly the federal government and the state of New York, and all coming together is what was necessary to make this project work, and it is an extraordinary project, and this is absolutely beautiful. So all those partners in government, please thank you for all you do. And as Louise indicated, our friends in labor who did an amazing job. And this will stand long after all of us are departed, and that's because it was built by labor. So congratulations to the members who made it. I just, one other observation when you go forth, most of the observations have been made, but you know, as it relates to transportation, everyone's talked about how important this is as a hub. One of the other things that I think is important to a community, and you see this when you come in on I-90 by road, when you come into the new revitalized airport, and certainly when you come here, it says a lot about the community, and guests coming here and people traveling here get a sense for what your community is by what they see when they arrive, and this is really a place that I think we'll all be proud for people to come to. So this will help not only promote our transportation system, but economic development and tourism, which is so important to all of us, and has been one of the things that the governor has worked so very, very hard to make accomplished. I won't repeat what others have said. This is an extraordinary day and an important day, and would not have happened without that partnership, without the leadership of Congressman Slaughter. But the one person I want to certainly acknowledge and introduce is the extraordinary governor of the state of New York, Andrew Cuomo. I've had the great pleasure of working with the governor for many, many years in many capacities. When he was in the cabinet and became Attorney General and the governor of New York. No one has been a more tireless advocate for our region or for upstate New York. And this is a governor who doesn't just talk about it. He does it day in and day out. I'm not really sure when Andrew Cuomo sleeps. I'm actually not sure Andrew Cuomo does sleep. People say that you can get a call from the governor at 6 in the morning. Trust me, I'm witness to that. That has happened many, many times. Frankly, although I'm usually rolling out of bed when he calls, it sounds like he's been up for hours and wants to talk about how to improve the Finger Lakes region economically and from every perspective that we share, quality of life, all the issues that are important to him, because he knows what's vital for the Finger Lakes is vital to the state of New York. I couldn't have a better personal friend, couldn't have a better partner to work with. I'm delighted, privileged, and honored to introduce the great governor of the state of New York, Andrew Cuomo.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Thank you very much. Thank you very much. First, what a great day. What a symbolic day. What a positive day. Day of accomplishment. Day a long time coming. Let me begin by acknowledging our special guest first. Joseph Morelli, Majority Leader. In Albany, they just refer to him as His Highness. That's the high regard they hold for him. But he is the son of Monroe County. He is tireless. He's a man of character. He's a man of strength. He's a man who's there for all the right reasons, and he's a man who gets things done. Let's give him a round of applause. To Congresswoman Slaughter, who worked very hard to get federal funds to help fund this project. She did a great job. Let's give her a round of applause. To Mayor Lovely Warren, who also gave funds to this project and helped expedite all the approvals we needed. Thank you, Mayor Lovely Warren, very much. And to Kathy Calhoun and the State Department of Transportation that actually built it. I like it. It has like an Italian flair to it. I feel that an Italian architect was involved. Gives me a little bit of that Sistine Chapel feel with the glass ceilings, which I like very much. The two sayings, we are putting on many state projects now because in many ways they speak to yesterday, they speak to today. E pluribus unum, out of many one. Out of many one. It was the founding premise of this nation. It didn't distinguish, it didn't separate, it didn't say black and white, it didn't say old immigrant, say new immigrant. It said, out of many, one. The premise of the nation was we were going to invite people from all across the globe to come here. And when you come here, you are now part of one family, the family of New York. So that is literally the founding premise of the nation, but it is in many ways more relevant today with everything that's going on. The saying on the far side is Excelsior. Excelsior is the state motto. It's on the state seal. Nobody's ever noticed, but it is there. Excelsior, ever upwards, ever upwards. Aspirational. We're going higher, we're getting better. That's Excelsior. That's New York, the Empire State. Follow us. We're leading forward, the progressive capital, Excelsior. You put Excelsior and E pluribus unum together, and that's the only message you need to speak to today. We are one, and we have to raise our sights, and we have to do better. And that's I think, a powerful statement for this beautiful facility. Built by organized labor, so we know it's built right, and that's one of the reasons why I'm a great supporter of organized labor, because when they build something, you know it's done with the highest skills and the highest standards. And whether it's the Tappan Zee Bridge or the Kosciuszko Bridge or whatever big project we're building, it's always organized labor because I believe in you. And it's a pleasure to be with you. To my friend Bob Duffy, great Lieutenant Governor, I miss him every day. Let's give him a round of applause. And Howard Zemsky, Mr. Economic Development, Mr. Business. Let's give him a round of applause. And this, as you heard, this is very much a part of the economic transformation of Rochester. It's indicative of what we're doing all across upstate New York. It's what I talked to Bob Duffy about to seduce him away from being mayor of Rochester. I said, come to Albany, we'll put together a plan to help Rochester in a way you can't help Rochester from Rochester. You know, pull yourself up by your own bootstraps. You can't pull yourself up by your own bootstraps if you're stuck in the mud. You can't do it without help, without support, without resources. And Albany wasn't there to provide any help or provide any resources. And we went to Washington, Albany, we designed an entirely different program. We recognized the need in upstate New York. I'm very proud to be able to say my administration has provided more economic aid to upstate New York than any administration in history, $36 billion. We brought down taxes statewide. We got more aggressive in recruiting businesses. That's what Howard does full time. We found the industries of tomorrow rather than focusing on the industries of yesterday, right? So much of the talk in Rochester was about the good old days and Kodak. It's nice to look back. It's better to look forward. That's where you move. And we said photonics is now the next evolution of Kodak and using light. And we're investing in the photonics industry, and it's working. We have the RIT Media Center. Eastman Business Park was almost closed. It's now thriving. We've invested in the I Love New York campaign. Tourism is up 15% in Rochester and the Finger Lakes. Is now a $64 billion industry. So the arrows are pointed in the right direction. And part of it is infrastructure, because businesses don't want to go to a location unless they can get there. And it is about infrastructure. And that's why we're redoing the Rochester Airport, $40 million, redoing Syracuse Airport, redoing the Plattsburgh Airport, redoing LaGuardia Airport, because people are coming in on planes. And that's why it's an investment. And that's why this train station also was so important, because this is the front door to Rochester, right? This is where people are coming in. And you put this together with the new airport, together with the Photonics Center, what's going on downtown, the new jobs. It is a different Rochester than it was just 5, 6, 7 years ago, and you deserve the applause for that. And one last point is we're getting it done. We're getting it done. What government forgot somewhere along the road was that it was actually supposed to do something. It was actually supposed to accomplish something. It wasn't a debating society. It wasn't, let me issue a press release society. It wasn't a proposal society. It was an action bureau. Get it done, make it happen, affect people's lives. Temporary train station for 36 years. See, you can't have a temporary train station for 36 years. That is an oxymoron. There is no concept of temporary that goes for 36 years. See, this is a government concept. How about that train station? Oh, that's a temporary train station. That's not our permanent train station. Oh, we're going to build the permanent one, but that's just a temporary one. Yeah, but it's been there for 36 years. Well, you know, we're planning, we're thinking. We want it to be really special. The airport, how many years we've been talking about changing the airport and updating the airport. It's about getting it done, and that's what we're doing. We're getting it done. We're moving forward. You can feel the progress. You see it in the numbers. Highest number of private sector jobs in the history of the state of New York is where we are right now. Highest number ever. So now we just have to keep going. E pluribus unum, all together, excelsior, the sky's the limit. Thank you for being here. God bless you. Enjoy this train station. Use it well.